Respected Professor James William Laird, Maria Tutt ma'am, and all the participants, a very warm good evening to you. First of all, I would like to personally thank to all the respected professors who are specially presented and gave their valuable time to the webinar from their busy schedule. Today, we all have accumulated all for developing Syloti language all over the globe. Now I would request Minajuddin Majumdar to take part in the live session. Minaj Bhai, who have completed graduation from Aligarh Muslim University and currently pursuing post-graduation from Maulana Azad National Urdu University. Minaj Bhai.
Oh, thank you. তো আমি যেহেতু সব সিলেটি স্পিকার হিসাবে আমি চাই আর সিলেটিতেও মাতিতাম। আমি সবচেয়ে পয়লা সবরে থ্যাঙ্কস জানাই যে যারা যারা আইনা হাজির হয়েছেন উপস্থিত হয়েছেন শরীফ হইতে পারছে। এই প্যান্ডেমিক সিচুয়েশনে আপনারা গড়ে থাকিয়া যে 10% এটা আমরা গভর্নমেন্ট রুলস রেগুলেশন সব আমরা মানা দরকার এবং আপনারা সব আবারও ধন্যবাদ জানাই। আমি ধন্যবাদ জানাই আর কোরআন এডুকেশন এন্ড রিসার্চ ফাউন্ডেশনের যারা ইনিশিয়েটিভ নিয়েছেন ওটা ভালো একটা উদ্যোগ, যার কারণে আমরা আইসবে হইতাম পারছি। তাছাড়া ওয়েবিনার থাকার কারণে গোটা বিশ্ব থেকে আমরা যোগ দিতাম পারছি, এটা আমরা লাগে সৌভাগ্য। আর টেকনোলজি আমরা এক করতে পারছি, এটা টেকনোলজির ধন্যবাদ জানানোর দরকার। তাছাড়া আজকের এই প্রোগ্রাম করার মূল উদ্দেশ্য হইল গিয়া আমরা সিলেটি ভাষার সম্বন্ধে জানা। আমরা তো সবই জানি সিলেটি আমরা ভাষা, মাতৃভাষা, কিন্তু অনেকে আবার সিলেটি ভাষার নিজের ভাষা হইতে শরমও পায় না। আমরা কারণ অনেকে মনে করিয়া থাকি সিলেটি ভাষা গাওয়া ভাষা, খাসা বাংলা ভাষা, নিজের সিলেটি পরিচয় পর্যন্ত দিই না, এটা আমরা লাগে বড় শরমের বিষয়। তো ও কনসেপ্টটা দূর করার উদ্দেশ্য নিয়ে যদি আমরা সিলেটি ভাষা বেশি করে জানতাম পারি, সিলেটি ভাষা সম্বন্ধে আমরা ইতিহাস কিতা, তার সাহিত্য কিতা আছে, বর্তমান অবস্থা কিরকম, এইসব জিনিস যদি আমরা জানি, অ্যাওয়ারনেস থাকে, তাহলে অ্যাওয়ারনেস ক্রিয়েট করার মূল উদ্দেশ্য। আর এই অ্যাওয়ারনেস ক্রিয়েট করার উদ্দেশ্য নিয়ে আমরা এই প্রোগ্রামের আয়োজন করছি। আর তো আপনারা আমরা আসলে উদ্দেশ্য জমাইবার উদ্দেশ্য হইল কি আমরা গেস্টদের কাছ থেকে জানতাম, তারা আমরা কইবা, তারা অনেক বড় বড় স্কলার এবং তারা কাছ থেকে আমরা জানার উদ্দেশ্য হয়েছি। তো আমি আশা করি আমরা সবার কাছ থেকে ভালো ভালো জানতাম পারবো সিলেটের ইতিহাস সম্বন্ধে, বর্তমান অবস্থান সম্বন্ধে এবং ইন্টারন্যাশনালি যে স্ট্যাটাস সম্বন্ধে জানতাম পারবো। তো এই বলে আমি আমার ক্ষুদ্র বক্তব্য শেষ করলাম। সব আবার ধন্যবাদ জানাই।
খুব সুন্দর স্পিচ দিয়েছেন আপনি। সবরে আর একবার লাস্ট রিকোয়েস্ট করিয়া প্লিজ মাইক জারজারি অফ করি রাখুন।
মাইক এটা বন্ধ হয় করেন, তুমি করে দাও না, হোস্ট আছো, হোস্ট। তো আমরা ফয়লার গেস্ট আইজ, যার নাম হইল গিয়ে প্রফেসর জেমস উইলিয়াম লার্ড। তাই হইল গিয়ে একটা ব্রিটিশ সিটিজেন এন্ড তাই খুব বেশি হইল গিয়ে সিলেটি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজও কন্ট্রিবিউট করছেন। তাই লাস্ট 30 বছর থেকে হইল গিয়ে সিলেটি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজও কাম করিতরা, আর তান ওয়াইফও তান হইল গিয়ে খুব একটা বালা হইল গিয়ে সাথ দিতরা। He have written numerous books and also translated many books in Syloti language. Even he has translated Bible and the last para of Quran. And because of him today, Syloti language has gotten international status. Minaz bhai jela utia koishla hoile gya Syloti language amra mantam hoile gya gawa bhasha otoba hoile gya shoromo hoye pore kono shomoy hoite diye hoile gya mane ile bezan manusho dekha hoise Syloti language oto besh bala hoile gya command nai, lekin sir all the way from another country he has given an important and he have understood the language properly. So I would love to call the sir. Sir, are you audible to us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, sir. Sir, please.
আমি নয়াসি। আমি খুব খুশি এই মিটিং জয়েন করা লাগি। আর আমি ইংল্যান্ড থাকি মাত্র এখন লন্ডন নাই, শেফিল্ড, ইয়র্কশায়ার, উত্তর নর্থ ইংল্যান্ড, নর্দার্ন ইংল্যান্ড। আর আমার ওয়াইফও আসেন অন্য আর একটা ভুল আমি নিজে অনুবাদ করছি না এটা আরো আরো মানুষ সিলটি মানুষ নানান সিলটি মানুষ অনুবাদ করছে ও যেটা আমরা সংসার পাবলিশ করছে নিজে নিজে অনুবাদ করছি না যেহেতু আছে আমার মাতৃভাষা নাই আমি বুঝি মোটামুটি সিলেটি ভাষা কিন্তু এটা আমার মাতৃভাষা নাই
তো স্যার সবচেয়ে পয়লা কোশ্চেন তো ওখান তো জিজ্ঞাসা করতে চাই আমি সেখানে সবেও মানে সবর একটা জো আছে যেন হইল গিয়া আপনি কিতা লাগি ও ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা মানে in the world we have plenty of languages but why you have selected this particular language
because I was living for many years, like more than 40 years in East London, Tower Hamlets. Okay. And I especially was interested in and made friends with people in the Syloti community. Okay. And that gave me the impetus to learn Syloti myself. And my wife also. Before that, I had learned Bangla, Shuddha Bangla. I've lived in Calcutta. Actually, Calcutta is my birthplace. My father was, in the British time, he was British period and beyond until 1969. My father worked in India as a banker. Okay. So, like West Bengal, Calcutta, I learned Bengali language, not as a child, a little later, but from there I learned the Syloti language. But, the main reason is that I was in Tower Hamlets, East London, surrounded by Syloti people. Okay. And I have a big interest in languages, personally.
So, sir, how many languages you know today?
No, you can't. If you ever learn a language, you can never finish learning a language.
Yeah, it's true, sir. It's true.
You can learn a few words in one, or 1,000 words, or 10,000 words. But I can read many languages, but speaking maybe 4 or 5 languages.
Okay, that's good. Then, so what about the literature? How is the progress going on in Syloti language? How is the progress going on?
Well,
regarding literature.
Well, at present, I have not recently published any new books. So, but research is continuing, and yes, my wife is making dictionary online, but we're not yet. There's some technical problems about publishing because.
Okay. Yeah. So, if you feel comfortable, you can talk in Syloti language as all the participants. All the participants.
বেশিরভাগ বুঝোই আমি জানি কেউ বুঝোই না যারা সিলটি নিজে সিলটি নাই ঠিক আছে আর আমি গত বছর আলিগড় মুসলিম ইউনিভার্সিটি ভিজিট করলাম জুন বা জুলাই মাস মানে জুলাই অগস্ট মাস মানে হয় আর ও মিনহাজউদ্দিনের লগে আমি আমার পরিচয় হয়েছে
জি जो মিনাজ ভাই তো কইছেন আপনার কথা বেজান কথা কইছেন তো স্যার আমরা আরেকখান একটা জিনিস জানতে চাই মানে সিলেটি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ আপনি যে সময় শিখিসলে আপনি মানে কিছু ডিফিকাল্টিজ অবস্ট্রাকলস কিছু ফেস করছেন
ওই বহুত বাধা আছিল জি পয়লা ও সিলেটি কমিউনিটি লন্ডনও এরা খুব শরম পাইছে ও ভাষা তে তারা এটা 40 বছর আগর কথা এরা আমার লগে সিলটি মাঠে রাজি হইছিল না এরা বরং উর্দু বা শুদ্ধ বাংলা, আর তারা শুদ্ধ বাংলা চেষ্টা করছেন কিন্তু পারছেন না। কিছু উর্দু আর মোটামুটি মানে রিফিউজ করছেন সিলেটি ভাষা মাত্রে। তারা কইছে এটা খাসরা ভাষা, হিকা দরকার নাই, লাভ নাই। তবুও আমি কইছি তে আমার সুযোগ, একটা সুযোগ আইছে। আমার এক নেইবার লন্ডনও, তাই গেছলা নিজের গাঁৱত ভিজিট করতে। আর দক্ষিণ খাননিসর এটা সিলট হবিগঞ্জ বর্ডার, কুশিয়ারা নদী। আর তাই ইনভাইট করছেন আমারে ইনভাইট করছেন তার লগে যাওয়ার লাগি। আর আমি 3 হপ্তাহ গেছিলাম গাঁৱত। আর ওই সময় আমার ফ্লুয়েন্সি খুব বাড়ছে। এটা 87 সালে। এর আগে আমি আস্তে আস্তে কষ্ট করিয়া তোরা হিকি লাইছিলাম। আর ওই সময় আমি পুরা ভাষা শিখছি না, কিন্তু কনফিডেন্স আইছে আর ফ্লুয়েন্সি আইছে ওই সময় 87।
স্যার আজ ওইদিকে সিলোটি এমন একটা ভাষা যেগুলো ইন্টারন্যাশনালি রেকগনাইজড ভাষা। তো আমি ওখান মানে আমি ওনার সব আমরা যতজন আছেন সবই ওখান জানতে চাই আপনি আপনার টিম মানে কতখান এফর্টস আসলো ও ভাষা ওগুতারে ইন্টারন্যাশনালি রেকগনাইজড করার লাগে।
ও আপনার লাইন কিছু খারাপ হইছে।
হ্যালো,
খারাপ গেছে
স্যার আপনি ফোনিতে হ্যালো
না আমি শুনতাম পারছি না।
হ্যালো স্যার এখন আওয়াজ আননি স্যার।
লাইন কিছু খারাপ
স্যার আওয়াজ আননি।
হিবার হোকা
জি আমি ওখান কইয়ার স্যার যেন সিলেটি ভাষা তো আগে ইন্টারন্যাশনালি রেকগনাইজড আসলো না। তো আপনি আপনার টিমমেট আপনার অর্গানাইজেশন যে এফর্টটা দিছিল ও এফর্টের বাদে তো এই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ গুলো ইন্টারন্যাশনালি রেকগনাইজড হইছে। তো আপনি কিতা কিতা মানে অসুবিধা ও জিনিস হইলে গিয়ে আবার ফেস করছিলাম?
এটা টেকনিক্যাল বাধা, কারণ আমি নিজে কোনো কম্পিউটার স্কিল নাই। আর আমার ওয়াইফ আর কিছু কম্পিউটার স্কিল আছে, আইটি স্কিল। আর কম্পিউটার ফন্ট ডিজাইন ইত্যাদি এটা আরো কোনো নলেজ আসিল না, এর আগে কোনো নলেজ আসিল না। আর পুরা মানে from the beginning we had to learn.
Okay.
And my wife especially. So that was a big obstacle. আর কিন্তু আমরা পাইছিলাম মানে আমরা পাইছি নানান মানুষ যারা স্কিল আছিল, দক্ষ আছিল, এরা সাহায্য করছে কম্পিউটার ফন্ট ডিজাইন করে আর ইউনিকোড রেজিস্ট্রেশন করা।
স্যার ইংলিশে একটা স্টেটমেন্ট আছে টু লার্ন এ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ সারাউন্ডিংস ম্যাটার। তো ইগু ও স্টেটমেন্ট তো আপনি কিতা কইতে চাই? টু লার্ন এ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ সারাউন্ডিংস ম্যাটার।
We learn the language.
Surroundings matter because if I'm planning to learn a language like Turkish, if I'm planning to learn a Turkish language, so it will be quite difficult for me because I don't have surrounding properly, because my residing place is Aligarh and here people generally speak Hindi or Urdu. Other than Hindi and Urdu, there are rare people who speaks English. So do you agree with this statement?
Yes, I do. But there are some people who are dedicated linguists. They can learn to a good extent without or with minimal. There has to be some, and you need the environment and the culture. So Syloti language is meaningless without doing something with the history, the culture, religion, artifacts, the agriculture, and so on.
Okay. Okay, so one last question that have your family supported you when you said this, that you want to study in Syloti language? Have your family supported it?
Very, very much. Not so much my parents, but my wife and my children.
Okay.
Indeed, Amar Dui Furi, Duyo Furi, Tarar school, primary school, 99% Syloti Satro Satri, Londono.
London.
Brick Lane Primary School, Christchurch Primary School. Ita Brick Lane Masjid or Khanda, ane prai laga ko. Ar prai 100% Satro Satri Syloti.
Syloti.
O school London.
Thank you so much.
Era Bustafaroin.
Acha.
Amrar Furin Bustafaroin.
Acha.
Furinte. Ar kintu matita faroin na.
আচ্ছা ও তো মাতার লাগি তোরা অসুবিধা হইব
আমি ধরছি না আপনার কথা লাইন খারাপ
আমি ওখান উঠে কইয়া মাথা তো কষ্ট হইব
আবার হোকা
হ্যালো স্যার ফুনিতরা নি আপনি
আপনি তোরা স্টেট করছেন না
হ্যালো
হ্যালো
sir, am I audible? Hello? Am I audible, sir? Am I audible again?
Maze. Akhta audible.
Network, sir.
Audible?
Okay. Thank you, sir. आपने join हुई ना इस webinar और लगी. Thank you so much. आपने अपना time दिसोई.
आमी को खुशी.
Thank you so much.
Privilege.
We also are glad that we have found a person because at first we all know that Syloti language, come on, it's a normal language, local language. But when we found a person who is international and who have made lots of effort, then it's remarkable. I don't have any words to describe it.
Well, thank you very much. It was originally it was like a hobby almost. Shock for me. এর বাদে আমার কাম হইছে আমার মেইন কাম
আচ্ছা ওকে থ্যাংক ইউ আমরা নেক্সট গেস্ট হইল গিয়া মারিয়া টট ম্যাম হইল গিয়া ডাইরেক্টর of Syloti project in University of London, and because of her, because tanda holiga Syloti language holiga ekta bahut bala status London of aise and time bahut seminars shob conduct karaisoi and time bortomane Syloti language dictionary o lekitra Maria ma'am am I audible?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, Maria ma'am. So, as per the time of London, it's I guess 2:45 or nearly 3 o'clock.
It's not too late. If I can just start. So you asked some questions, and if I can add a little bit. Perhaps.
No, means ma'am, you're having a good command on phonetics, so you can start with the phonetics because sir has given a quick demo regarding the language, so you can go with the phonetics part.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to say that actually Syloti isn't a local language. Syloti is an international language. It is spoken in several countries around the world.
Yeah, ma'am.
So it's and then I'd like to say that when learning a language, it's not so much the environment that counts, it's the interaction. Functionally, language is a tool for communication, so you simply need to find someone with whom you can communicate, who wants to communicate, and that's not just an issue, for example, if you're away from the homeland of Sylhet, but I believe it's also an issue in Sylhet in that there is pressure, social political pressure in Sylhet to not speak Sylheti. Although I've never been to Sylhet, so I don't have personal experience.
Okay.
I only know what people have told me.
Mm.
So yes, so if people don't know who I am, I've prepared a very quick presentation.
Yeah, you can.
However, I'm unable to share my screen. If you can allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, 1 second, ma'am.
So I was
Yeah, you
a
can
little bit
share
shocked.
now, ma'am.
I was a little bit shocked to be invited to this, given the fact that
No, ma'am. We are glad.
I don't really know much.
We are glad, ma'am, to interact with you, ma'am. Really, ma'am. We are so glad that you have joined us.
But it's just that I am not a Sylheti speaker natively, so my opinions on the past or the future of the Sylheti language, of course, are not as important or as pertinent as actual Sylheti speakers.
Okay.
So it's, in any kind of language support, outsiders may be perhaps more visible, but we shouldn't be more important. Okay. I think someone just wrote on the screen, but I don't know. So anyway, I guess in my attempts to learn Sylheti, I do lots of translation. So I tried to translate the name of today's webinar into Sylheti. This is my Agoramni Syloti Basha or Porogno Syloti Basha. So, Sylheti.
All are requested to just to please mute themselves. Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, you can continue.
Sylheti is a very rich language. Unfortunately, we'll see that quite a bit of the richness of Sylheti is at risk of being lost. So these translations and using other words, trying to find the what I call proper Sylheti, but when I use proper Sylheti, it's a tongue-in-cheek expression, Shudo Syloti, in that Sylheti is a language. The Sylheti language is correct in itself. There's no mispronunciations, there's no grammar mistakes because Syloti isn't Bangla. So a brief introduction for those who don't know me. Our project began here in London at the SOAS, University of London, when the director of the Surma Community Centre, which houses the Bengali Workers Association charity, attended a endangered languages event at SOAS. And the director said, oh, I know an endangered language, Syloti, come to the community center and work on our language. And of course, Syloti technically isn't endangered. It's spoken by 10 million people. However, what he noticed was that the older users of the community center, those who had arrived in the UK in the 1940s, in the 1950s, 1960s, 70s, were speaking a different Sylheti than the younger Sylheti speakers who were arriving, whose Sylheti was, just for a brief summary, was simplified, was very Banglified, meaning that a lot of Bengali Bangla words were replacing Sylheti. Our project, we have tried to make a dictionary app. It's just a beta version. There are many mistakes, and we need to update that.
Okay.
We've held an academic conference, and of course, in academia, everything goes very slow. The publication actually should be coming out in the next few months. We did a storybook, which is available free online, and we actually hold regular Sylheti language lessons for those interested, and there are quite a few interested. Many of the people who are interested are younger speakers who basically were somewhat denied the Sylheti language because their parents didn't speak it to them. Now, I'm no one to judge why a parent wouldn't speak a language to a child. For example, many Sylheti speakers, perhaps themselves, have been victimized socially or politically because of the language they speak. And they've thought that by not passing on the language to their children, that they'll save their children from this trauma, which unfortunately usually doesn't happen. Discrimination will continue whether a language is spoken or not. But so there's no use in shaming victims and shaming parents for not speaking a language to their children. But what needs to change are groups and organizations need to be supportive of the Syleti language so that Syleti's status improves, so that parents won't be concerned for their children who speak Syleti language. So going on, most of you perhaps know me from the Facebook group that we formed. Honestly, we began a Facebook group just for us linguists to share data that we had collected here in London, but then we've gotten membership requests immediately from basically Syleti speakers all over the world, from Canada, the United States, here in London, from the UK, from Dubai, from Qatar. The Syleti speakers are all over the world. It's a pretty active group today, and I guess it's very useful in that it's become a community language archive, that if you want to look up Syleti words, if you want to interact in Syleti, if you want to discuss the Syleti language, not only can you post in this group, but you can search the group's past posts. And then we also have a Facebook page where we collect various learning materials. So if you want to learn or read some of the things we've made ourselves, others have been collected by very inspired, how we say, so I would call them community activists. Basically, the Syleti speakers working for the language are community activists.
Exactly.
I'm a secretary. I'm an outsider. The real community activists are those who are members of the community.
No,
and actually, I see Mukhtar Ahmed here, so I know he's contributed quite a few materials to learning and helping support the Syleti language. So I come to this from a side of linguistics, and basically I'm doing language documentation. So language documentation came about in the 1990s when an alarm was sounded that an estimated 50 to 90% of the world's languages will be dead, cease to be spoken by the year 2100. Will Syleti be one of these? Will Syleti last the next 4 or 5 generations? That's kind of, I guess, the big question in linguistics. In linguistics, we observe. So I hope Syleti won't die. Of course, Syleti will change. All languages naturally evolve.
Yeah.
But there are other things that happen. So at the moment, I'm just going to cover one sound. So one little sound in Syleti, the H sound.
Okay.
So what's happening with Syleti H sounds? So what's observed is there is a correspondence between the Syleti H, the Assamese K. This little X symbol in International Phonetic Alphabet is pronounced K. K is also a sound in Syleti. It's not a mispronunciation. It is a real, proper Syleti sound, K. And Bengali Sh. And these 3 sounds in these modern languages, Syleti, Assamese, and Bengali, correspond usually to a Sanskritic S. So for example, you have the word Khatkora. Now, this wouldn't be a Sanskrit word because this citrus fruits come from East Asia.
Yeah.
So of course Sanskrit wouldn't have a word for this. So this is a very local, natural word, but we still see the correspondence. Khatkora in Assamese, Khatkora, and then in Bengali, Shatkora. We also see the word end. Now, the proper Syleti word, I suppose, would be hesh. And we can see that in the Sanskritic spellings because those two, the beginning sound and the end sound, are different. So they would have different evolutions. Whereas in Bengali, all of the s, sh, sibilant sounds were just all neutralized to sh. Assamese, we see that the Assamese may keep the Sanskritic spelling, but the pronunciation is completely different. H. So h in proper Assamese is how you say end. In proper Syleti, end would be hesh. However, Not many people still say that today. Most often we'll hear the Bangla shesh being said.
Yeah.
Is the word hesh in Syleti dying? Will it continue to be spoken in 2 or 3 generations? And so this is a regular correspondence. We see lots of other words like hat for 7, which is being replaced by Bengali shat. However, just like hesh is said heshe in the expression, almost always is said hatbar for often. Very rarely do I hear people say shatbar. That just, it's not Syleti. But then we've got hial, homan, homai. How many people still say homai instead of shomai? So there is this language variation, and we can observe changes in real time happening with the Syleti language. Of course, this is one Syleti H sound. There was a, let's say pre-Syleti H, or let's call it language X, simply because defining when a language begins and ends is almost impossible. So there's this language X. Language X was some kind of Prakrit, the ancestor of Assamese and Syleti and Bengali. So in this language X, there was aspiration. And we hear it in most South Asian languages, not only with the simple H letter sound, but also in the different consonants. So there's a difference between a non-aspirated and aspirated consonant. For example, t and t, b and b, k and k. However, so what happened though, so the Sanskritic H's, so this is completely different than the Sanskrit S evolving into Syleti H. The Sanskritic H's, all of the h sounds in Syleti at a moment disappeared, which is what has left today's Syleti, today's modern Syleti, to be a tonal language. Most of the aspiration evolved into a high tone in Syleti language. So there aren't many South Asian languages which are tonal, but there are a few. For example, Punjabi, Chittagonian, Syleti, Rohingya. So the fact that Syleti is tonal, it's a language that needs to be documented because it is so unique. And it really does, if we can continue Syleti as a tonal language to see how it evolves, that would be wonderful. Unfortunately, other academics who have been working on Syleti tone are noticing quite a bit that there's a very small percentage of younger generation Syleti speakers who are actually using tone in the Syleti language. So we see this here, the Sanskritic H, in at, so whereas in Assamese and Bengali, it's hat for hand. We've got the verb to mix, nyani, in proper Syleti, whereas in Bengali, it's misha. And then we've got other examples, ash, asha, al, adi, olud. And unfortunately, just like the last examples, with hesh being replaced by Bangla-sized shesh, khatkora being Bangla-sized to shatkora, a lot of these aspirated unaspirated words as well are being, let's say, re-Banglified or Banglified, re-Sanskritized or Banglified. People saying hat for hand, hal for plow. Manush, the example, the last example, Manu would have been proper Syleti, but the Bangla Manush has been replacing it. And Manu has a whole interesting history of evolution, which is why many Syleti speakers today say Mainchor or Mainche. They don't, Manushor, Manushe isn't really, proper Syleti. So these are just very slight, brief examples of what we call in linguistics language shift. This is just a basic definition I took from Wikipedia. So language shift, also known as language transfer, language replacement, language assimilation, basically means that over time, word by word, one language replaces another. Is that happening in Syleti? I'd say yes. because I gave just one sound with the H's, but then we hear it quite a bit, the H's being Banglified to K, the Z's being Banglified to J. So there is a major shift or transfer of sound and language happening within Syleti at the moment. So as a linguist, that points to some concern for the future of Syleti, in that language shift is usually the first step to language death or total language replacement. And sorry to finish on such a sad note, but there is hope for the future. Syleti does seem to be getting quite a bit of revitalization. More and more people are taking pride in Syleti language because the script, people are learning more and more about the script. The Syloti Nagri script is becoming very symbolic. Just one little word of caution is that any language can be written in any script. So Bangla can also be written in the Syloti Nagri script. So it's somewhat, as the linguist, I'm concerned that in the future, Bangla written in the Syloti Nagri script won't be considered Syloti, because if it is, that only reinforces people's conclusions that Syleti is a dialect of Bengali, and that unfortunate low status of Syleti, whereas Bangla has a higher status, is probably what's causing the language shift in Syleti. And if anyone has questions?
Yeah, I guess one of our participants, Shamim.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shamim, you can ask.
Ma'am, yeah, kita hoita aslam. Oh. Okay, ma'am, after Syloti bogul ma'am. Yeah. Foreign language সবার লাগিয়া peculiar লাগে, any foreign language you say English or any other language মানে যে গো আমরা কোনোদিন শুনছি না এগুলো আমরা লাগে peculiar লাগে, so Syleti as a language মানে আপনাদের লাগে কেমন peculiar লাগছে, first question. আর second question হলো যে আমরা বহু সময় দেখছি যে আমরা যারা মানুষ আছেন তারা ইমিটেট করতে পারেন অন্য অ্যাকসেন্ট, whereas আমরা Syloti pure accent অন্য ফরেন মানুষে মানে অত সুন্দর করে এখানে ইমিটেট করতে পারেন না, কোনো খাস রিজন আছে না?
No, exactly. So, I'm sorry, I will respond in English because it takes too long.
It's okay.
So every language has accents, every language has registers. And this exists in one person. One person can speak different accents, different registers. For example, if you in any language, you don't speak the same register in a formal situation where, like at your place of employment, to your boss, as you would, for example, to your best mate. So there are differences, yes. And that's the thing. So we've been collecting a database that has almost 13,000 entries, but it's like 8,000 words. So almost 30% of our database is dialectal variation. There's quite a bit of dialectal variation in Syleti. So like I said, as a linguist, we describe. So we observe what's happening, and then we try to describe what's happening. So in this case with Syleti, it's like just with the hesh, we'll just take the one word hesh. Why do some people pronounce it hesh, and why do some people now say hesh? What is happening? How would we describe the difference between hesh and the difference in shesh? And as far as we can tell, there is no regular evolution of the Syleti to sh. What's happening, it's what we've observed, is that it's the Bangla pronunciation, the Bangla word that is replacing the Syleti word. And now that might not be, it happens. All languages borrow words from other languages. It's completely acceptable. However, languages are vital, languages that are living, languages that are productive. When a language borrows a word from one language to another, it's not to replace a word, it's to enrich the word. For example, in the French language, a meeting is a rendezvous. We say rendezvous. I would have a rendezvous with my dentist, a rendezvous with my work colleague. Rendezvous simply means meeting. When English borrowed the word rendezvous, it's a specific type of meeting. So, rendezvous in English is a romantic meeting, whereas in French, rendezvous is just meeting in general. So productive, vital languages, they borrow words from other languages to enrich their language. And usually when they do borrow these words, they then integrate that sound, integrate the new word into the sound system. For example, I've been told that there is a difference between khoswa and green, that they're not the same color greens. So khoswa is green, the proper Syleti green, and then if a Syleti speaker says green, it's a slightly different color green. So green, green, was borrowed into Syleti sound system, green, to mean a different shade of green, to enrich the Syleti language. Green wasn't meant to replace the word khoswa. So again, language shift is the concept of replacement, not of enrichment. And that's the concern, that over time, over 2 or 3 generations, once there's so much replacement, what will be left of the Syleti language? I hope that answers your question.
Shamim, I guess your clarification got cleared. Yeah, is anything
Not
else?
exactly, not exactly, but I was asking, like, ma'am, why can't you people imitate like our accent? I mean, we can imitate your accent. I mean, British accent, you say, or American accent. Our people has imitated your accent, but I have witnessed that many people can't able to, I mean, imitate our pure Syleti accent.
Well, so, well, I don't think it's not really a case of imitation, and I'd say that South Asian English has an accent of its own. I wouldn't say that South Asian English, or South Asian English is not the same accent as an Australian accent. It's not the same accent as, you know, a US American Texas accent.
Yeah, exactly, ma'am.
And even here in London, oh my goodness, in London there are, you know, there are at least 10, 15 different accents from the city of London. So it's not a question of imitating. It's perhaps a question of status. So unfortunately, Syleti is a lower status language. And if people do this consciously or unconsciously, the same result would be that you try to, well, I'll use your word imitate. You pronounce words according to what you think the person you're speaking with wants to hear. So if you're speaking to a Syleti person who accepts Syleti as the full-fledged, valid language that it is, you're more likely to actually pronounce like the proper, you know, the proper Syleti accent. But if you're speaking with someone, even a Syleti speaker, who holds Syleti as a low status, in low esteem, then most likely you will accommodate your communication to fit that person's idea of how you should be speaking. So again, language is a tool for communication, and language happens in interactions. So it's very difficult. Again, parents who don't pass the language on to their children, you can't blame them because they've been victimized themselves, either socially or politically. So it really takes a group effort, everyone, to have courage to say, I am proud of Syleti, I will speak it, you know, in proper Syleti, regardless of how I will be judged by the person I'm speaking with. So it's, unfortunately, no, not unfortunately, it's unfortunately, language is a part of a person's identity. Language is as integral to a person's identity as, say, religion, gender, ethnicity. So when you present yourself with a certain identity, and identities can be multiple. You know, people can have multiple identities, multiple nationalities, people can speak multiple languages, people can have multiple nationalities. When you present this to a person, socially and politically, there is discrimination, and that's around the world. And there will always, well, most likely there will always be social and political discrimination because we are humans and that seems to be what we do. The question is how much discrimination will you allow yourself to be victim of And that's it. I'm not going to blame, so I don't blame any Syleti speaker for bunglifying their Syleti. I'm interested in all the forums and I'm just observing what's happening. But it does take a lot of courage to stand up against social and political discrimination, judgment. And so it's much, much more complicated than simple one person speaking in a certain accent. Does that answer a little bit better? I really do not want to lecture anybody on the language that they speak, because everyone's language is valid because everyone has their own history. And like I say, I am not here to victim shame any Syleti speaker, because lots of Syleti speakers have been traumatized by social and political discrimination.
Ma'am, as I asked James sir previously, I'm asking you again, what made you select the language Syleti?
Oh, I simply, when I started at SOAS, University of London, it was when the director of the Surma Community Centre came to visit, and he invited us to work at the community centre. And since I was interested in language documentation and real world experience, I started going to the Surma Community Centre, and the people were very welcoming. They put up with all of my questions, which I have to thank everyone in the Facebook group. Thank you as well. I know I asked so many questions, and people are wonderful in responding to my questions. So it's finding a welcoming community. There are some communities who don't want outsiders learning their language, which is completely valid again. Again, a lot of these communities, for example, Aboriginal Australians, North American Native, I don't want to say Indians, Native Americans in North America, they're very protective of their language because they've lived through historical genocide. It's been genocide, language and culture. So it's for people to speak Syleti again. But I will say one little thing. There have been a few posts, videos of foreigners speaking Syleti, and that received lots and lots of praise. But then when, for example, let's say someone who speaks Gujarati learns to speak Syleti, or someone who speaks, Punjabi learns to speak Syleti, they receive less praise, which is unfortunate. But again, that I think is the racial dynamics that goes back to colonialism. So I'm not going to blame anyone there, but different accents in Syleti are completely acceptable. I'm just encouraging everyone to feel comfortable enough to have the courage to speak the Syleti, the way their grandparents speak it, and not feel they have to change their Syleti to not be discriminated against.
Ma'am, one of our participants, Komoruddin Lakshkar, who has done many researches in the field of Syleti, he wants to interact with you. So I would like to call Brother Komoruddin Lakshkar. Brother Komoruddin Bhai. Komoruddin Bhai. I guess there is a network issue with him. So, okay, moving to the next participant, Mohammad Shahid Ahmad. He's also having some questions. Yeah, Shahid Bhai, you can carry on.
One question. Hello.
Yeah, you can.
Ma'am, as you know, the most of the people from our area feel shy while speaking Syleti. What is the main reason behind this? Is it because of our lack of knowledge about our mother tongue or any other reasons?
No, not at all. No, not at all. So, like I said, of course, every person's experience, every person's life experience is different. But I mean, if a person experiences social and political discrimination, I completely understand why that person would be shy. It's not your fault that you're shy to speak something that you're discriminated against. I am not a Syleti speaker, so I cannot teach you anything. I shouldn't lecture you. I shouldn't say, you need to do this, stop speaking Bangla. That's not how it works. It's tiny steps. Each individual has to face basically these aggressions in daily life, and whether they have the courage to confront an aggression or not, it depends on them. It's linguicism. So linguicism is linguistic language discrimination. It's like racism. In racism, a person with darker skin receives these microaggressions, every hour, every day, and you can't live your life always fighting. So you have to pick your battles. I often say online, I recommend people, please don't waste your time and effort arguing with someone who's already biased. If you respond to someone who is biased, don't respond to them. Respond to the other people who may be listening, the other people who speak Syleti, who are looking for support, the other Syleti speakers who know that Syleti isn't Bangla, but Syleti is a valid language. It's forming a group to support each other. I think that's the solution. But then again, discrimination is there. We are human beings, and it seems like we will always discriminate. So it's not you. You're not lazy. You're not speaking incorrectly. You're not a bad Syleti speaker. Your parents, if they did not speak to you, were not bad parents, but they lived through situations and they tried their best. And that's all people can do, is try their best.
Thank you, Maria ma'am. James sir. James sir. Yeah, sir. Am I audible, sir? Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. You're speaking to me.
Sir, one of our participants, whose name is Komoruddin Loshka, he wants to interact, or he want to ask some question. So, Mr. Komoruddin Loshka, you can.
Okay.
Komoruddin Bhai, you can ask now. Komoruddin Bhai. I guess there is a network issue with him again, because he was saying me continuously that you want to ask. Yeah, you can buy.
Hello.
Yeah.
Are you listening my voice?
Yeah, we are audible. You can.
My point is that I want to ask. Yet now, so many persons have possesses doctorate degree in researching Syleti language, but I have heard a few persons said that Syleti is a separate language which have its own script. What is the reason behind it?
Well, there is its own script, Syleti Nagri, which was handwritten, only in handwritten form, and preserved in much poetry that was written down, and it was exclusively handwritten, and the preservation was through the Pir and Pir Murid system. So a Sufi Pir, also known in India as Guru, would have disciples, and the Pir would write down some of his teaching in poetry form, and the disciples would have to write it write it all themselves, and they use the Sylheti Nagri script for that purpose. And then I can't remember the name exactly. Abdul Salim, Ahmed Abdul Salim, in about 150 years ago, he made a typeface, a wooden typeface for Sylheti Nagri, and that was used for printing Muslim religious poetry. The most famous one is Khalid al-Nabi, about the life of Muhammad and his companions. And this is a book that was in almost every Sylheti Muslim home until about 60, 70 years ago, and still is in many homes. And so it has been a written language for many centuries, but it was not recognized by the government and not promoted in schools. It was a private, used privately by within communities, mainly the Sufi teachers and their circle of disciples. And in Assam, there's the most widespread famous one was called Shitalong Shah, and his teaching was mainly in the form of songs, and there are thousands of songs, and many of them have been memorized by many people in Kachar and in Eastern Sylhet. So that's the exact origin of that script. Well, it's similar to one or two scripts in Bihar from 2 centuries ago. It has some. I've even seen some Hindi of 200-300 years ago written in very similar script. So there's no. That's all I can say, really. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Komuruddin bhai. Okay, so
sir, thank you. My father. Hello.
Yeah, bhai, we are audible. You can continue.
My father, who was also a Sylheti Nagri reader, who possessed Haletun Nabi and who taught about 100 people the Nagri script and how to read Nagri. And yet at present in my home, one manuscript is there written in Sylheti Nagri, not published yet. But my point is that sir, my point is, so far I know the researcher said Sylheti is a dialect of Bengali, and some says that Sylheti script is much older than Bengali. Sir, what is your opinion about this? Sylheti scripts are much older than Bengali script. What is the opinion about it, sir? Your opinion?
There is no proof. There are the Bengali script and the Nagri script have evolved over many centuries, and we can only go by what is surviving. My personal opinion, which is more guesswork, is that they are approximately equal age, and probably Bengali is older in the region anyway. And Nagri script came in as more Muslims migrated from Delhi and further from Afghanistan over 500 years ago and earlier, and they brought the script with them, is my opinion.
I guess I can add a little bit. If you think about, for example, the Turkish language in Turkey, originally Turkish was written in an Arabic script. And then because the Arabic script really didn't fit the language, because the Turkish language is not a Semitic language, it's a different language family. They decided to modernize the script, and they chose, the Roman script, but they could have chosen any script. So there's a little bit of misconception. There is no Bengali script. There is no Assamese script. So there is the script, Eastern Nagri, or in Sanskrit, Purbi Nagri. So that is the script that is used today by many languages, Assamese, Bengali. So the Purbi Nagri script was originally created to write the Sanskrit language. It wasn't designed to write any. It wasn't designed to write any modern language. So a little bit like what they did with Turkish, there was a group of Syloti speakers who decided that the Purbi Nagri script was too unlike the Syloti language, so they modernized it by creating their own script.
Okay, madam, thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, madam.
Kamuruddin bhai, you have written some poem, I guess, in Syloti language. Hello?
এখন একটা সিলেটি কবিতা পড়ি আর শোনা যাননি
জি খুব কান ভাই ফড়ক কান
আমার নিজের লেখা সিলেটি বই আমি 2017 একটা মণিপুর থেকে আমার বইয়ের নাম হইলো আমার মণিপুর ও বই থেকে একটা কবিতা পড়ি আর আমি সিলেটি ভাষায় অন্তত 500-এর উপরে কবিতা লিখি আসছি ও সিলেটি ভাষার ও বই থেকে একটা কবিতা পড়ি আর তুফানোর ডর আসমান খালা করি তুফান জানির আওয়াজ আর গণ গণ তরখ গাইলর উপরে খাতা আন গাইলর সাইরো বাই হরুতা লইয়া ব দা আর চলইলেম জুত করি তো দুয়ার বেন্দা দে জলদি লেম হারাটিনো শা শা আওয়াজ মারের আইয়া খালি খানো বাতাসে জোর করি টেলা মারল বেরো গর উপরে পড়ি যাননি ডাল ভাঙ্গিয়া দাড়ি ছড়ে তুফানে দিল টেলা এক চিল্লাইয়া উঠইন ইয়া আল্লাহ সাইতে সাইতে গরর ভিতর নিয়ে হাতার টুল্লি উড়াইয়া লইয়া গেল হিল খালি হামার কুলা মুড়ো দিয়া হরুতা আঞ্জা করি ধরইন সকল মিলি এক কোনা কিছু বাদে হুশ আবার জানর কুটাত গুরিয়া ইয়া হামায় বাস বেতর গরিব বাড়িন্ত তুফানোর যত ডর বাড়ির নিশ্চিন্তা ধন্যবাদ ধন্যবাদ
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, bhai. It's a wonderful poem. Am I audible, bhai? Kamuruddin bhai?
Hello?
Yeah, Kamuruddin bhai. Thank you so much for reciting a wonderful poem.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving to the next. Abdullah bhai is raising his hand. Abdullah bhai, do you have any question? Okay, so moving to the next, Fakhruddin Chaudhary. Fakhruddin Chaudhary.
Abdullah. Hello.
Yeah. Abdullah bhai, do you want to ask any question?
I'm host Abdullah Refoyar. Abdullah Hundain.
Ji, Masoom bhai.
मी चैट सेक्शन में चाहिए बहुत मानसिक क्वेश्चन फॉरवर्ड लग गया रिक्वेस्ट
जो जो है ना जो तो फखरुद्दीन भाई फखरुद्दीन भाई
Yeah, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me in this webinar. I've been following this language since a long back then. I have met James sir way back in last year around September as well. I had a good dinner with him as well. I have one basic question for all the members here and as well the respected teachers who are with us in the forum. The question is that how we can spread this language on a wide scale. We can see more of Bengali books, more of Bengali movies or stuff like this. So what is the best way we as a youth can do to improvise more on this language and we can do our part to do much better? Because I believe that together we can instead of one by one. So what are the best ways we can improvise according to the people's understanding level we can do for us? That's my basic question.
So as an outsider,
Okay.
there are lots of people doing lots for Syloti at the moment.
Yeah, like my question is basically like what in our country like we can do much, because like you see the people mostly living in more rural areas, right? So based on that incident, like we have to target those audience. So what is the best way we can try to improvise on such scales? Like, do you think that we can handle some small workshop like this, or do you feel that we can make more books and we can try to publish it in that area?
Okay, so your question is very loaded in that, you know, if people are in rural areas, language may not be their first concern because they may need internet access, you know, reliable internet access. That is the future access to knowledge is through internet.
Yep.
They may need access to regular education in any form. So to say that, you know, unfortunately in any kind of social movement, you can't simply say I'm only going to do language and ignore everything else. I'm sorry, I've never been to Sylhet, so I can't really talk about, you know.
Yeah, actually, you know, the best thing is like, yeah, like resources are pretty much good. Like I have found the resources with the things in the Facebook group as well. People, the participant, that's pretty much good. But you know, like on a longer version, I believe that I was having an idea that in those areas, most possibly in the Barak Valley in Assam, as well as in Sylhet provinces, situation is not like in that way. Like the areas are developed, but there are some areas which are underdeveloped. And I think that this language, like a lot of people, they don't know. I had a talk with a lot of friends of mine from Sylhet who is in Bangladesh, but they themselves say that they didn't know that they have their own script, although they speak it. So you know, that was
what you're talking about now is marketing. So if there are any marketing experts out there, this would be the kind of question to ask them. Like if anybody has a, you know, experience in marketing. So, I mean, unfortunately, we live in a very capitalist society. So you know, even approaching social problems, you need to do it in a very capitalistic way. I know. So I'm not going to advocate any type of political revolution that is not necessary. We are multilingual. Speaking several languages is okay. It's natural. You know, so basically it's just raising awareness of the Sylheti language. And I think someone suggested in the Facebook group that private businesses should, you know, create their business signs in Syloti Nagari. You know, that's the way. I mean, it's, you don't need the government to support you in that way. It's just individuals.
True.
You know, each individual tiny marketing.
Yep. It's like same thing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Like the session was really very good and I enjoyed it. Like you as well, like I'm also not the native speaker of this language, but like I have always been fond of languages, so I'm actually try my best to save and conserve this language and do my best work and those spreading out this language into different areas. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chandas bhai.
All right.
Thank you so much. Okay,
No worries.
MD Shakeen Ali, moving to the next participant, Muhammad Shakeen Ali. Muhammad Shakeen Ali, do you have any question? It's a request to all the participants to please raise their hand, as it's quite difficult for me to read all the chats. So we have Dr. Ashraf Zaman. Dr. Saab. Doctor?
Hello?
Yeah, Dr. Saab.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yes, my question to one ma'am, that is there any how many with Syloti language schools are there? Any figures are available? In Barak Valley, is there any Syloti medium schools which have come up recently? In whole of in the Barak Valley or in England, since ma'am is undergoing doing some project on Syloti. How many Syloti medium schools are there in England and particularly in Bangladesh also? Hello? Because without schools we cannot promote this language, and since no, if schools are not available, then how we will be able to promote this language?
Schools are formal education. Schools are what we would call industrial education, in the fact that there's one teacher and many students. Schools, industrial education is not the best way to teach a language. Languages are best learned in one-to-one interactions. So I wouldn't say that Syloti needs to be in formal education in order for the language to continue. There are over 7,000 languages in the world and fewer than 200 countries. So all countries are multilingual, and most countries have only chosen a few languages as their lingua francas, which a lingua franca, like Bangla in the Bangladesh, Bengal area, then Bangla as a lingua franca is of valid use, just as English as a lingua franca, for example, in like South Asia, South India, is a valid, lingua francas are tools, ways of communicating. So it's not necessarily formal education that's the best to promote languages. Languages are best learned one-to-one, and usually parents to children. However, if you don't know Syloti and you want to learn Syloti, the best way to do that then is to actually find a Syloti speaker who is very patient and will speak Syloti with you.
No, but you see, when English language was promoted, then schools, English medium schools were opened up all over the world. So is not it? Schools are opened when children started to learn English, then only English became popular worldwide. Then how you are saying that without Syloti medium schools, this language can be promoted? I don't understand that.
I'm simply saying that schools are not the only way to promote a language. And because
so that may be
because schools
that might happen. Schools is, but you see, English due to English fastest growing of the English medium schools, children are more adapted to the English environment and they have learned the English language. So on the one hand, this is our case, and on the other hand, you are saying that without Syloti speaking schools or Syloti medium schools, this language will be promoted worldwide. This is a two contradictory thing.
So, for example, in France, there aren't English medium schools, yet the French people still learn to speak English because they take English lessons. They travel to English-speaking countries They watch English language media. They consume English language songs. So language doesn't need to be just industrialized in order to be promoted. Language, because it's a social activity, much more social than political, you can socially language, you have to promote it politically.
No, this has been done. My question is that this has been done in English language.
My problem is that English, it's been done through the English language because there was much violence and colonialism. So promoting Syleti the way English was promoted is probably not a good idea. We don't want to promote the violence of colonialism and imitate English colonialism. You know, no other language should imitate English colonialism. And I understand, like they're Chinese. There are more and more Chinese language schools financed by the Chinese government. Again, that's a type of colonialism that's happening, and that's political. But not all language promotion needs to be political. Language promotion can be social.
Okay, anyway. Thank you for your views.
I guess, sir, I guess your clarification has been cleared by the ma'am.
Okay, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, now we have Bankim Chakrabarti. Bankim Chakrabarti.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay. I am from Lanka, Assam, India. I have a very small question to Mary ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, sir. Sir, we are audible. You can say the question.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, we know when the Syleti, our mother tongue, Syleti, script or alphabet was invented. But our speaking language, Syleti speaking language, was started from which century? What is Mary ma'am's opinion?
Okay, so my linguistic opinion, and I know this isn't going to please you, it rarely does. So my languages that are spoken today are all the same age. So there are no cutoffs. So, you know, today, for example, there's a language we call modern English. There's a language we call Old English. There's a language we call Middle English. They all have the word English in them, and they're related, you know, hereditary-wise, but they're not the same language. You know, the rules of modern English grammar are not at all the same as the rules of Middle English grammar. You know, trying to teach Shakespeare today to modern English speakers, it's like teaching a foreign language, and you have to translate, because that's not the way we speak today. So all languages today are the same age. You know, where and when will you create a cutoff? It's not really possible. So this happens a lot. For example, Syleti has lots of dialectal variation. And I say, you know, dialectal variation doesn't have borders. It has areas of transition. So we'll just talk about geographic areas of transition. But then each feature, dialectal variety has a different area of transition. Like, what is the geographic area in the south where you know, transitions to or? What is the geographical area where people say the different present progressives between Zairam, Zaigar, Zaitram, which Zaitram I believe is influenced from Vishnupriya. So that's the thing. Syloti is not the only language spoken in that region of the world either. There are other languages spoken. And then these other languages mix together. Language contact inspires change. There's because there's the international border between Bangladesh and Assam, India. Some dialectal variation is being created there, but again, there are areas of transition. So there are periods.
Ma'am,
yes,
I think when there was no Bangladesh, even not India, there was Syleti language. It is so ancient.
Can I speak to that, because I've done a lot of research?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You will find that there is a typical vocabulary in Syleti is of the male-dominated categories: politics, military, fighting, weapons, religion. Male-dominated. The male-dominated vocabulary in Syleti is mainly of a Farsi, Persian origin, and there's some Arabic, but the Arabic has come through Farsi, and this is historically traceable to the certain armies, Mughal armies, through various wars and rebellions against the Mughal, the king in Delhi, ended up in Sylhet, in Assam, and they did not have their wives. So there's various phases of migration and warfare and turmoil, unrest in northern India over many centuries, led to a large number of ex-soldiers settling in what is now Sylhet without their wives, without any of their women, and they married local women. So the general non-male words, so general household and everyday words, are of a more the Assamese, a dialect of Assamese, you might call it. I mean, I know I'm talking very, very simplistically, but it's of more the Eastern origin words. And these soldiers whose common language was Persian, they may have come from Afghanistan or Delhi, but their main joint language was Persian in those days. So you have the two mixed together, and you have that is the origin of the Sylheti language as we know it today. There's very little surviving of Old Sylheti. There's some poetry of the old putis going back 250 years, but it's very difficult to understand. But I've seen transcripts of court cases going back 130, 120 years, and transcribing the actual Sylheti spoken, or they call it Bangla of Kachar, and it is actually identical to the Sylheti spoken today by many people. But what the everyday language was before that, you can only speculate.
Yes, so every language spoken today is the same age. And I'd add even a little bit further back from James, at Sylheti, before even the Mughal Empire, the Silk Road, there was major trade from the north, from Lhasa through Sylhet down to, and that is also seen in Sylheti language, all the classifiers. So the classifier system in Sylheti, which is also found in Nepali, it's also found in Assamese, it's found in a very reduced form in Bangla. The classifier system is inherited from the neighboring Tibeto-Burman, Hakadai languages, so East Asian languages. So
yes, I agree.
Different aspects of a language, you can't just say the language. It's so complicated. Languages are very, very complicated. So different aspects have different zones of transition, time periods of transition. But every language spoken today is the same age. Some languages may have written traditions that date back further, but that language that was written, for example, Old English, Middle English, Modern English, is not necessarily the same language.
Chaucer period, Shakespearean period, like that. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Bankam Chakrabarti bhai. Thank you so much. Now we have next participant who is Masoom Ahmed. Masoom Ahmed, Mr. Masoom Ahmed.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
brother, am I audible?
yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I have a very simple question to Ms. Mary. Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Ma'am, Mundrani, ma'am. It's a simple question, ma'am. Although very oriented to academics, I would like to know what is the issue with equivalence in difference that is already very much dealt in translation studies. So what is the scope in Syloti? While we are going to translate it into English, or say I'd be very much delighted to work with it in translating it into Urdu or Bhojpuri, etc. So what is the problem of equivalence in difference in my Syloti? Because no one is asking this question anyhow. This is the one of the most concerned thing, I think.
So I will start off by saying I am not a translator. So translation is a skill. People go to school for several years to become translators. So my translations, because I'm a linguist, tend to be more literal, so clunky and not very beautiful. So I couldn't answer that question. I do not have a degree in translation, and I recognize that translation is a profession.
So, Masoom bhai.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Actually, my motive was not to obstruct you. I'm sorry, but actually, I was very much wishing to know this.
Oh no, I admit I admit my weaknesses, because I think I can learn. But if you'd like to teach something about Syloti translation, that would be wonderful, and I believe people would be interested.
I'm working on it, alhamdulillah. But I would like to express my plight to people like you who are doing great work in Syloti.
No,
I
I
would like
believe so. I really honestly, I'm not doing great work, and I tried to say this to the organizers as well. I'm a type of secretary here. I'm a secretary learning from everyone else. I've had very, very good teachers. So it's the Syloti speakers. Yes. So it's the Syloti speakers who are the experts, the Syloti speakers who teach me.
I'd like to shift my question to Mr. James. Sir, if you are willing to answer me, if you are going to give any way out.
Can you repeat your question, exact question?
My question is, around equivalence in difference related to Syloti. What is the scope and what are the issues we are going to face? Just a general question.
Equivalence and difference.
Equivalence in difference. That's the central debate in translation studies. That's why I'm very much concerned.
I'm really not sure how that I even understand your question fully, the angle of your question. If you can clarify, please.
My motive behind asking this question is about the cultural differences, because of course ma'am says all the languages are of the same age, but with the passage of time, we are encountering various cultural changes, right? So languages share different cultures. We represent different cultures through our language. Suppose that I'm going to translate kitchen. So undal from Syloti into English kitchen.
Yes.
So in Hindi or Urdu, Rasoigar, etc. So this is how we do dynamic or do some some kind of this general common translations. So I'm concerned about the translation process in Syloti, because we are not going only to translate into English, though at first we are going to attempt to English. Then I'm also very much aspiring to translate into Urdu, translate into Bhojpuri, etc. Even though into Greek. but I have a question related to, I mean, I was very much, I mean, aspiring to know this answer. If any one of you could
There are
please
some translation tasks that are frankly impossible to do well
of course.
simply. So there are certain like undal and certain other kitchen items.
I'm also adding something like
impossible to
step.
translate into English because there is no equivalent English word. A good dictionary will show a picture and a description, but you cannot. There are certain things like a da or the curved da. An English person would not even understand what that is.
Of course.
We haven't got a
Sir,
word for it.
recently I wrote a paper where I had to resort to a very long sentence just to explain what is a mulafuru. Because there is no mulafuru in English culture. That is what my question is.
Yes, well, that is a feature of language. I'm trying to learn Telugu at the moment because this is my daughter has married a Telugu man, and I downloaded an app and it had sentences like, do you want to travel to Germany? And do you drink champagne? And this is not relevant to Telugu. I mean, it's totally irrelevant. It's this is but equivalence and difference is a big issue in translation because
of course, sir, that's why I'm dealing with it.
And I can't solve it.
It's okay, sir. It's okay. It's okay. I have attempted it. Inshallah, I'll carry on with it. And
so
if people,
I have a little
yes,
anecdote. I've been scolded quite often because when I translate, it's more of a gloss than an actual translation, and especially with food names. Like, so I've just translated handash or Norfita just as dumpling, and people have said, no,
yes,
it's not a dumpling, it's so much different.
I can share your
you know, or translating pita as simply bread. It's like a type of bread, but you only want to translate as one word, so you don't want the sentence to be too long. It's not that we're being disrespectful of the language. It's that, I don't know, I appreciate books when I read them that use the actual words undal and such, and then have a gloss in the back where it can actually explain what it is, I suppose.
Even I was explaining to one of my professors translation studies. I was saying her that, ma'am, do you know what is a cat in Syloti? She says no. Then I said mekur. Then she asked, okay, what is a wild cat? I said bautaula. She doesn't relate. She becomes, I mean, what is bautaula? It is completely different from mekur.
But if you think about it, it's not impossible. All words don't need to be translated. For example, thinking back again about food, how many food names? We say pizza, we say kimchi, we say all of these different. Yeah, there's like we don't translate.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to translate. Now you have said about handesh, pita.
So yes, so I mean, perhaps, you know, I guess there are certain things that shouldn't be translated, right?
Yeah.
I would like to interrupt here, ma'am, Miss Mary and Mr. James. You people are our guests, and I had no desire to interrupt you in any way. My question was though irrelevant, I think, but I mean, it was a very genuine question. So I apologize before you both.
Oh no, Masoom, the problem is you're the expert and you're asking people who aren't experts. So you are much more knowledgeable about translation.
No, my intention was never for a debate. It's okay, ma'am. We share the same feelings. Okay.
Thank you so much, Masoom bhai, for a wonderful question. Thank you so much. And now at last, I would like to call Manjur bhai for vote of thanks. So Mr. Manjur bhai. Manjur bhai, am I audible to you? Manjur bhai?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, so just begin with the vote of thanks.
Okay. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is pleasure to be here today to witness this innovative and fruitful webinar on the past and future of Syloti language. Syloti Bashar Otit আর ভবিষ্যৎ. It has been an honor to be among such accomplished individual and my sincere thanks to Professor William James Leor, Maria ma'am, and other dignitaries. Thank you all for your patience. I wish you all a good evening. I'm Sylotio Tura the silent Koidam Sayar. আমরা সবে যদি মিলিয়া সিলটির খাম করি তাহলেও সিলটিরে আমরা আগে নিতে পারি আমরা নিজে সিলটিতে কথা কইতাম সিলটিতে কিছু ডকুমেন্টেশন করতাম লিখতাম মেইনলি অ্যাকচুয়ালি লিঙ্গুইস্টিক্যালি আমিও একজন লিঙ্গুইস্টিক্স স্টুডেন্ট আমিও কিছু কাম করি আর সিলটির আজ আমারও ইচ্ছা আসলো কিছু প্রেজেন্ট করার কিন্তু কাজে ব্যস্ত ছিলাম ওটার লাগি পারছি না নেক্সট টাইম যদি ওলা আরো ওয়েবিনার করা হয় প্রোগ্রাম অর্গানাইজ করা হয় তাহলে আরো কিছু মানুষ আছেন ইচ্ছুক তারাও প্রেজেন্ট করবা প্লাস তারাও শেয়ার করবা তার থট আর কিছু কইতাম চাই না থ্যাংক ইউ অল Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manjur bhai, once again. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you so much once again, sir and ma'am, to join with us, to give your valuable time with us. It was a great pleasure for us to have an interaction with you. Thank you so much.